Okay, fractions, fraction basics. What's a fraction? You write a fraction like something over something. So let's start with fractions that have a 1 on top, and what we're going to put on the bottom can be various things. Let's start with 2. What this means is we're going to take our thing, whatever it is, our starting number. Let's say this is one whole pie or one whole cake or something. We could also have like a ribbon or a bar of some sort. And 1 divided by 2. In algebra, this is actually called a division bar. So we're going to take this size of a thing, and we're going to divide it into this many pieces, okay? So in the case of a circular thing, like a piece of pie, it would be like going right down the middle, okay? So we divide it into 2 equal pieces. So we're taking a pie, 1 pie, divided into 2 pieces. In the case of something like a strip of stuff like this, it would be dividing it into 2 equal pieces there. So each of the pieces is called 1/2. So here's a half, here's a half. Or in case of this, it's 1/2 and here's 1/2. Let's do a different fraction. What if I have 1/3? Okay. This time, I'm going to have to divide this into 3 equal pieces. And so let's just sort of estimate it like this. And so assuming I got those equal, those are each called 1/3. And you're used to seeing them in round sectors like this, like chunks of pie or pizza or something. But you could also divide a rectangular region into thirds. So here's 1/3, here's a third, and there's a third. By the way, I got 12 squares long, so a third of 12 would be 4, you see. So that I made it 12 because it'll divide evenly into 2 and 3 and 4 and so forth. So that's what a third looks like. It's 1 piece out of a total of 3. The denominator is bigger, but the pieces are smaller. Okay, so let's go for another one. This time, what if I want to go for a fourth? It means I have to divide this into 4 equal pieces. Okay, that's pretty easy to get right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each of these is called a fourth. And notice the fourth is smaller than a third, which is smaller than a half. But the bigger I make the denominator, the smaller the piece ends up being. So let's divide this one into 4. So it's like dividing it in half and then dividing each of these in half. Okay, so if I have 12 squares long, 1/4 of 12 is 3, so I just go 3 squares. All right, so that's a fourth, that's a fourth, that's a fourth, that's a fourth. Let's see, I can go a couple more that work out evenly here. How about a sixth? If I want to do a sixth, I chose that because it'll come out even over here. Well, first, it's like dividing it in half and dividing each of these halves into thirds. Okay, so there's 3, and here's 3 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a common way to slice up a pie. If you have 6 people, you can divide up the pie that way, or pizzas, things like that. Here, if this is 12 squares long, each sixth would be 2 squares long. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bigger number in the denominator. It's important to learn the word because people have to talk about these things, and that's the word that is about this number down here. Okay, so the denominator. You know, with churches, they have different denominations like Catholics and Methodists and Quakers and different groups like that. And so the denomination is like the kind of church it is. A sixth, the denominator tells what kind of fraction this is. It's a fraction that's going to talk about sixths. So the denomination of this fraction is sixths. That's this size piece. If I want to talk about 2 of these sixths, or 7 of these sixths, or 5 of these sixths, each of these is a 6, and you just sort of stack up a bunch of them, and that's how many sixths you have. So this represents how many, and this is what kind. So far, we've just used 1 on top, but if we start using other things, this is going to tell how many, and we call it the numerator. Numer is sort of like numbering, so it's like counting how many sixths in this case, how many fourths, how many thirds, so forth. So numerator, denominator, top number, bottom number. Okay, this we're going to multiply by this, we're going to divide by this. That's what it's going to amount to. Okay, this is what sixths look like. Let's do one more. Let's go for twelfths. If you notice that 12 is 3 times 4, if I divide this into fourths and then divide each of the fourths into thirds, I come up with twelfths. So let's do that. So here's half, and then half of a half. There's a fourth. These are fourths. And each of these I'm going to divide into thirds, like that, and like that. And here we have twelfths. Do you know something that's divided into twelfths? Look at a clock. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So a clock is divided into twelfths. And so here would be a whole hour, and this would be a twelfth of an hour. So a twelfth of an hour would be like 5 minutes, right? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60 minutes in an hour. Okay, how about if we cut up a strip into 12 pieces? Well, I have this already divided up into 12 pieces because I made the strip 12 squares long on this graph paper. So I made it easy that way. So that's what twelfths look like. So you get tinier pieces. If I had hundredths, it would be microscopically small pieces. If I had thousandths, it would be even smaller, and so forth. So the number on the bottom, the bigger it is, the more pieces we're dividing it up. Okay, so that's the first lesson on fractions. So I'm going to leave this lesson there. I'm taking this in small chunks. This is how you make fractions that have a 1 on top. You take one thing and you chop it up into that many pieces. That's what it's all about.